It's StreamYard is thinking, and we are live once again. Welcome, everybody. Super excited today. In fact, more than excited because we have a good friend and fellow expert here. In fact, this fellow here, David Schloss, is considered top of the rung of Facebook and Instagram ads. And hey, David, how you doing today?
Doing great. Really appreciate being here.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for taking time. You're a hard man to get a hold of, but understandably so. And I appreciate you taking time here today to join us and to talk about Facebook ads and specifically webinars. A very powerful kind of way to attract and get clients into your funnel and to your, improving your sales, obviously, into the organization. So let me just tell you really quick here. David Schloss, as you can see here, if you're coming in live, this also gets broadcast out to YouTube, is the founder of Convert ROI, a highly successful digital advertising agency focusing exclusively for Facebook and Instagram. Is that right, David? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Fantastic. And one of the things that, makes this unique and for David, and as I know him in the marketplace, is also to kind of take complicated business scenarios and make them really effective and work well online and specifically through Facebook. And one of the ways that I know you do this, we'll talk about it through how to drive traffic and people to sign up for webinars. But one of the ways you do this is, and I caught this as one of your descriptions from the website, is the psychology behind how to do this. And I actually had a podcast launched yesterday where we talk about the psychology of ads and advertising and how important this is, really more than just clicking buttons inside the ads manager, right?
Yep.
So I'll be interested to hear more about that today. But first, before we dive into the webinars area of this presentation, I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure you've been asked this many times, how did you actually get started with Facebook ads advertising?
Yeah, so I was first on Facebook about 12, 13 years ago. And at that time, they didn't really have an ad platform. It was more of they were testing ads out. Everything was right-hand side. And they were primarily giving this to just corporate entities, right? Your Cokes, your Pepsis, anything that big retail brands, right? You just think of any sort of clothing brand or anything along those lines. And at one point in time, they were doing just like almost like ad management deals similar to what we do, right? Where it's you could sign a 1-year agreement, it's $50,000, and then they're just going to test out, X amount of millions of impressions to see if this could work. That's how a lot of things were done in the past. When they opened up the platform to the public, which was a little over 10 years ago, I managed to get in through a friend of mine because at that time, the only way you were allowed in was either some sort of access code or you had to know somebody. So when I got into the ad platform, it was all because I knew somebody. The platform was very new. There wasn't a lot to work with. It was just, you put up a banner, you might choose some locations, and then you just sort of wait, right? There wasn't a lot of targeting options back then compared to how things are now. And so I got in, one, because I was curious as to what this platform can do. And this was 10 years ago I was thinking this. It's like, all right, if I could figure this out, then I might have something business-wise on my hands. At the same time, this will be how I can earn some money and keep myself, just afloat. Because I was in college when this whole thing happened. I was not going into advertising by any means. It was something I fell onto and started to love the more I dove into it. And I first was doing SEO. I was doing web development and web design. Like I was playing with everything, trying to figure out what I enjoyed to do. And then also would be willing to work with other people to do it for them. So I had an agency basically on paper since I was 18. So about 12 and a half years ago. And I was just doing little things here and there, nothing crazy, just trying to make some money. But then when social networks started to offer ads, primarily Facebook, I was trying to run with it as much as I could. And as soon as I was in that platform, I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I got to find a way to teach business people how to use this thing. But it wasn't that easy in the very beginning. It took several years before businesses even knew what Facebook was. And then it added, another 3 to 4 years on top of that before businesses were asking for Facebook ads. So I was way too early to the party in order for a small business to even understand that Facebook was something worth putting time into.
That's interesting. Yeah. And getting into it, was it just, hey, I got to figure this out just for interest purpose only? Or did you quickly sort of think, you know what, I might actually have an angle here to build something unique and stand out in the marketplace? Or was it more like, I'm just going with the flow here on this one?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was just I'm going to figure this out, right? I'm going to try to figure this thing out. Maybe I'll do some affiliate marketing. Maybe I'll do something for myself, right? There was really not that much thought into I'm going to do this for other people because, in all honesty, I'm a 21-year-old. My last thought is like, oh, I'm going to go sign 30 clients and make this a service. My thought was, is how do I make this work so I can make 5 to 10 grand a month? Because at 20 years old in college, if you're making 5 to 10 grand a month, you're chilling. You're fine, right? And so I was just thinking that. Now, once I was out of college, I was 22, got my degree, got a part-time job just to keep things afloat. Like I said, I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't at any point feeling a sense of scarcity in my life, which I eventually ran into several times. But while I was still learning the foundations of Facebook, there weren't that many courses out there. Maybe 2 or 3. I can't even remember what they were, but there weren't that many courses back then. And if there were courses, they were very short because there weren't a lot of things to play with on the ad platform back then. And as the platform began to evolve, that's when I was able to take it to other businesses and say, here's how I've used it for so-and-so, let's say a realtor, and here's what it's done for that business. And then here's how we can apply it to your dental office or your chiropractic office or, your law firm or whatever it may be. So it took several years for me to even get to the point of feeling comfortable enough to taking this platform to someone and proposing that they need to use it.
Yeah.
I didn't start to hit strides and really make this work until about 5-6 years ago. Because around 5-6 years ago, Business Manager was a concept. Audience Insight tool came out. Like all these extra things that now are common were brand new. Right? The ability to open up 100 ad accounts. It was very difficult to do that back then, unless you had a bunch of profiles. Now, I just open up a Business Manager, request it, and I got 100 ad accounts. Right?
Nice.
So all this stuff that's very common now was uncommon before, and I really wasn't able to turn this into a true business until about 5-6 years ago. So imagine I went basically about 4 to 6 years just throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks, and then finally something was sticking to the wall, but it took almost 6 years.
That period right there, David, that requires some grit, or there's something driving you on that one, because so many would give up, right? It's like, dude, what the hell am I doing here, right? So that speaks volumes to kind of your tenacity and your pure grit on that one. So kudos, even though I know it's probably not have been easy with all these ups and downs.
Yeah, it was very, very tough, but it was worth it because now, like you said, developing a brand, have a business built upon a platform, which I know can be a positive and negative to a lot of people, but it's built onto a platform where I've established myself as a credible source for information on Facebook and running ads on Facebook. And I've done ads for, if not a couple hundred people, I know at least almost 400 or 500 people in just the last 3-4 years, right? Just consulting, running their ads, running launches, you name it. And I truly do feel that the platform is what took me out of obscurity. Like it saved me from completely quitting in business. It saved my relationship because I was trying to find a source to rebuild my financial situation and believe in myself again. Like everything all stemmed from Facebook. It didn't come from just, one day I was sleeping, I woke up, had an idea and things started to click. Like, no, everything all originated from this platform. Yeah. And so Facebook does drive my business. Instagram drives my business. But at the same time, I've used the platform in order to, spread the message of both myself and my clients. And then in turn, those people come onto us and, buy whatever it is we put out there.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And you talked a little bit about the challenges here, obviously, actually a lot, but you also talk about working with clients, and that transitions over to working with clients. And really my next question, and again, we're going to get to the webinars here, but my next question is, what is if there's one thing that you've seen for yourself, yes, but also for clients or prospects that are coming into this, obviously there's more established brands and, established, well, brands / individuals / companies. And then it's, newbies coming in. What's that one thing, or maybe a couple of things that you see is like, okay, here's the pattern again and again and again that people struggle with, and even yourself back then?
Yeah, it's oftentimes when it comes to just building a business, not just having an agency, right? Because with the agency side, a lot of people have issues with client retention.
Yeah.
And client retention could be based on a variety of things, right? It could be that they're not getting results, which everyone thinks is the reason. It's not always the reason. So I've had experiences where I've had great results for clients and they still leave. And they leave because we've made them so much money that now they have enough money to hire someone in-house. So they don't need me anymore, right? That's not a bad thing. You've helped them grow. It's a fantastic testimonial.
Yeah.
But the bad part of it is you lost the client, right? But your client retention is not terrible. That just means you helped them grow and they decided that they wanted to go in another direction. That's not a bad thing. It happens. But some people have client retention issues, right? They can't get results. They don't know how to communicate what's going on in campaigns, and that could frustrate a lot of people. They don't communicate in a sense of not just can you not explain what's going on, but you don't check in with me every week or every other day. Like there's just a lot of communication problems that break down in a client relationship, and that's why a lot of people leave. And then on top of that, it could be that you're entirely reliant on the client to give you all the information to make this successful. The reason why clients hire you is for you to use your brain and your creativity or your team's creativity to help them grow their business. Yes, it's a team effort. Your team or you plus the client have to work together, but the client doesn't want to have to do 90% of the thinking. They still want you to do most of the work. They will come in when they need to. And if they still feel that they're heavily involved in that process, even though they've hired you, they don't need you anymore. So a lot of agencies are having this issue with retention because they don't know how to convey or communicate how to do things, what they need to do, why they're doing certain things. And even if it's successful, if the client feels like you're ignoring them, they're going to leave you no matter how great your results are. And so, yes, results are important, but so is the communication part. That's where a lot of businesses fall apart anyway, not just agencies. We're talking any business. If you can't follow up with your leads, you can't communicate with those who are ready to pay you, but you just haven't called back. Like there's a variety of open loops that never get filled. And a lot of it is around communication. So the reason why I feel like my agencies continue to grow is because I just know how to communicate. You don't have to be communicating immediately. You just need to get back to people in a timely manner, whether it's 12 hours or 24 hours or, for some people, it's like, as long as I get back to you in the next 2 days, you're good.
Yeah.
And that's all you got to do. It's like, at least communicate back before you do anything and then go do your work.
Yeah.
That makes everyone happy.
That's huge. That's really a massive takeaway right there. And it goes beyond just, expectations management. It's also systems and processes, and here's how we work. So they understand, okay, here's what's happening. And then you stick to that rule and you educate them on that rule so that you show up as an authority and leader, not just somebody who's like, doggedly following their instructions. You need to come in strong, and those are great relationships, and those are the clients you want too. So yeah, no, that's a good one right there, man. Before we dive into the Facebook ads here, let me get rid of this. This is marketing land right there. We know about the Facebook's evolution and recent announcements from F8, of course, with the groups and Messenger and privacy policies galore. The Congress and all that stuff we saw last year. But one of the things that are happening, is automation and bots, and we see this across many forums and discussions out there. Google, of course, included in this, and Google is making forays into this as well as Facebook. And here we have Facebook gives small businesses new advertising and engagement tools. A new article on Marketing Land today. Just wanted to get your perspective. Do you think that it'll get to a point where it's like, dude, the software and AI engines, if you will, the machines will just take over, and the ad guy or gal is just like, hey, I'll give you some copy and upload some data points and maybe an email list or whatever, and then let it rip. What do you think about this sort of change or direction?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be entirely run by AI, and here's my hypothesis on that. It's because if everything is run by AI and it's all going to be successful, I mean, how are you going to have millions upon millions of advertisers all having successful campaigns, right? There's going to be multiple lawyers, multiple dentists, multiple realtors in certain locations, all bidding on the same things, all targeting the same people. Not everyone's results are going to be successful. So even if the entire platform was run by AI, someone's going to lose on a bid, someone's going to lose out on conversions, someone is going to be spending more than another advertiser, naturally, right? That's how it is now.
Right.
And so here's the funny part. We still have to activate the AI. There's still a human element to it. I still have to connect you to an account. I still have to make sure that everything is set up correctly in order for an ad account to even deploy a campaign. I still have to click create campaign, right? There's still a lot of elements to it that involve a human. Now, a lot of AI might actually reduce how many people are on your team. That's one thing. Like, do I need a team of 20 to manage 30 clients? No, I actually only need a team of 7 or 5. And a lot of businesses in the past, if you had 40, 50, 100 clients, you needed like a team of 40 people to manage that. You don't anymore, right? There's enough tools out there where one person can manage 5 to 10 accounts by themselves or more. I've seen it done with even more. So I think these tools actually just make it a lot easier for someone to deploy things, not necessarily make it 100% self-managed, because there's plenty of tools I've tested where it's, it's like, oh, we manage the whole campaign for you. You don't have to do anything. And it's done by our automation rules. And I've seen automation rules go absolutely crazy, outspend what they're supposed to spend. CPAs don't make sense. And it was all preset and everything looked good. And as soon as they go live, they don't always work. So for some reason, gut instinct still works incredibly well when it comes to advertising. There are moments where I look at something, and even though clearly Facebook says it's not working, I give it an extra day, and the following day, it's one of the best performing ads. Happens a lot. So if we become so dependent on the machine to do everything, I also feel that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for the machine to go, this isn't working, but I'm going to keep spending money anyway, right? Versus where I would look at that and go, oh, this isn't working, I'm going to turn it off. Let's stop spending money here.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if it's just Facebook's way of creating dependency, right? Where it's like, okay, you become dependent on this thing. We do everything for you. It makes it very easy. You put 100 in, we help you make 200 back, right? It's a very BizOppy style scheme, but I don't think it's going to work that way. There's still going to have to be involvement. There's still going to have to be someone analyzing everything. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And of course, in this sort of conversation, what happens is people like to hype this and create, fear, right? So that means more press, more clicks, more advertising, and the engine keeps going on that. And, there's a big part of what we're talking about here today. We even mentioned the word earlier, psychology, copywriting, an engine that just whips out the best copy on the planet. Don't see that happening anytime soon. It's about the human connection, and that still has to be proven. Right? So.
Yeah.
Great. Well, you know what? Let me just flip over real quick to this screen here. We're going to dive into the webinar section. This is great to get a foundation. And this looks complex here. It's not meant to be. It's just really a picture here. This was from actually a previous podcast where I talked about VSLs and webinars and structures. And what I'm doing here is I'm just simply sharing real quick before David comes in and talks about how to fill up webinars. But essentially, the model is simple. There's a click that happens, inbound traffic to a page, opt-in registration, goes to a webinar room, a calendar or an application form, etc. Booking. You can just basically self-select into the process, and the sales team works on closing that at the end. There's one at the bottom I just wanted to call out, and I'm sure David, you'll talk about this. Is what we call the minimum viable funnel, which is a long form video or copy at the front end. And then straight to an application form and then confirmation, right? So it's really a big shortcut here in this guy here. And we've tested this as well, but I know you have a lot of experience with this, but I just wanted to set the stage here for this next conversation, because I'm really interested in how you approach this and fill out webinars. If you want to take us through your steps, that would be awesome.
Sure. So there's 2 types of webinar funnels, and I'm not saying 2 types as in live versus automated, right? To me, that's still a webinar funnel either way. One's just presented live and the other one's not. What I'm talking about is one funnel being that you just go straight to registration, and another funnel being that there might be an additional opportunity for you to bring someone in before you present a registration page to them. So a lot of funnels that we run right now are direct to registration, right? So webinar is taking place on Wednesday, or webinar is just in time or running every hour. We send them straight to a registration page. A lot of funnels run that way because once you understand your metrics, you can cut off as many steps as you want. The more people that view your presentation, the better. That's how a lot of clients are thinking in their mind, where it's, okay, for every 1,000 people we bring in, we get 10 sales. Let's just get 1,000 registrations. If each registration is costing us $5, it's going to cost us $5,000 in order to make $20,000 in sales. It's easy math, right? So they just want to keep spending money because they know that for every 5 they spend, they make 20. Very simple. It doesn't start out that way. In the very beginning, you're testing out a lot of variables. How many landing pages does it take before we find one that is going to give us a 30% registration rate or higher? How many different presentation variations do we have to create? One's 90 minutes, one's 70 minutes, another one is 60 minutes. Like, which one's converting better, right? There's all these different elements you have to go through before you get to the point where you're just spending money on traffic and it's working, right? That's normally what happens. Every now and again, we'll come across a webinar funnel that actually does lead magnet first. And the reason why they'll do that is because the lead magnets can usually drive webinar registrations for equal amount to what you would spend to get one direct to registration. Here's what I mean. Let's say your leads cost you $1 to $3 a piece. And then from the moment they become a lead, they're also shown the registration page. And for every $3 lead, you're getting you just need 2 leads in order to get 1 registration, right? So half your leads are becoming registrations. If your webinar registrations were already $6, you're paying the same amount for a registration, but you're getting double the leads, which means that the leads that didn't register, you could retarget them to the registration. You can email them, right? You just find other ways to get them to join the webinar. Or maybe you promote something else to them down the road if they decide to never jump on your webinar. You could do an affiliate promotion or send them to a different product. And the reason why we'll start with either one of these setups is really just dependent on the client and what their budget is, right? If their budget is let's just say on the lower side, they need a result now. They need something now in order to determine how something will be working in month 2 and month 3 and beyond. So their funnel is most likely going to be registration, thank you page, live room, or if it's going to be a live webinar, it's just going to be the room where the webinar is taking place, a replay page, a cart page, and a thank you for purchasing, right? That's the whole funnel. There might be a VSL, and the VSL is only used for retargeting purposes or to send someone through email in order to get them to buy if they've already watched the webinar, right? That's all the pieces. And you could do one of each and you're good. 5 to 7 pages, you're done. But once again, not every funnel works on the first try, right? So that page that you created most likely might have to be updated once or twice. That VSL might have to be shortened or lengthened. That presentation might have to be shortened, or maybe the pitch isn't good enough, right? There's always going to be an adjustment to be made so that your webinar consistently converts. But from a traffic standpoint, the dialing in of your cost for a registration is actually where most people get hung up in the very beginning. And that's actually the easiest part, because once people are joining your webinar, that's when the hard part begins. Where are people dropping off your webinar? Are people making it to the pitch and just not buying? Like, that's when things really get difficult. If you're having an issue with the traffic, that's because what you're delivering is not a hot enough topic to the marketplace for them to sign up. Or there's already dozens upon dozens of people talking about the same thing, right? And I'm sure you've experienced this too, where, not everyone could talk about drop shipping, right? If there's 100 people talking about drop shipping at the same time, someone is not going to get the result that they're looking for, at least one. And it might happen to be you. So you have to change up the subject matter to fit something that is more unique to that marketplace. Now, you can still talk about that subject. I'm just using drop shipping because it's a hot topic still, right? Yeah. But how do you change that? High ticket drop shipping, how to do high volume drop shipping, how to do drop shipping without AliExpress, how to do US based drop shipping, how to do drop shipping with Walmart and Amazon, right? just change up the subject slightly and you look entirely unique to that marketplace. So you will be getting much cheaper registrations or leads going through your funnel, right? And once you solve that, the rest of the funnel is really starting to take shape. That's when you do the real work, which is seeing whether or not people are viewing the presentation and eventually getting to the cart.
Right. Yeah, and you talk about the cart, which ultimately is a sales conversion at the back end, whether it's a credit card or, on the phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The cart could be getting on the phone, filling out an application, getting on the phone. It could be just from the webinar page direct to a page that says, leave your credit card or pay through PayPal, right? The point is just getting to the point of sale. And that funnel needs to be adjusted a variety of times before it's nearly perfect, where, for every 10 people that go through, at least 2 make it to the cart, or however many people you want to make it to the cart, you get there. But you first got to dial in the messaging. And surprisingly, most people think that's where the hangups begin. That's not where the hangups begin at all. That's just one obstacle in a much larger scheme of things that you're going to be dealing with as you are optimizing this funnel. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And, when we talk about webinars, of course, we're going to talk about, a more established brand or established, presence in the marketplace, has a business that's already there. And of course, the flip side is, hey, I'm fairly new to this. I'm an expert, quote unquote, at what I do. Maybe I'm a insurance specialist, or I'm a life coach, or a trainer like gym, physical fitness, etc. And I want to do webinars. I've sold some products, etc. What would be the approach you would take to somebody fairly new to just say, listen, I haven't done webinars, or I haven't really proven any funnels. I'm really brand new, but I have a proven market. I've been in business for 5-10 years, whatever. How do you take them through? And what I'm looking for also is a little bit of on the metric side. We talked about that. But, so if we do the most simple of like an ad to a lander, registration, that is, thank you, and maybe a call or a cart. What do you look for in terms of like starting something like that out brand new? And then how do you start changing it based on metrics? Meaning like, okay, well, we got to have at least, 100 visitors to the lander, the registration page, before we do any A/B testing or switching headlines or any of that. How would you approach a fairly new person into this webinar funnel?
So with new people, it's going to be more dependent on whether or not they feel more comfortable getting on the phone, or do they feel comfortable selling through video? Okay. Because what I often find, at least these days with like local based clients, let's say they're an insurance specialist or a realtor, like realtors don't really need a webinar. What they really just need are short form videos, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes long at length, to just portray what it is they do, how they do things, and people they've done work with, right? Their past clientele. Right. And once they do that and establish their credibility, people are going to sign up to want to talk to them, right? Not necessarily about a house, just in general. It's like, I want you to be my realtor, right? So they aren't going to need a webinar per se. It would be more of an application funnel, right? Where it's a short video that drives people to an application and a phone call, right? With these other businesses that I'm working with that, they want to start with something fresh and they're not sure if they should go webinar route or case study route, or, just something more short form. I often tell them, like, have you done a webinar before? No, I have not. Okay. Have you ever scripted a webinar before? No, I have not. Okay. Have you ever done 100+ slides before? No. Okay. Automatically, I'm going, what's easier for this person? Is it easier for them to be on camera for 5 to 15 minutes? Or is it easier for them to script out 100 slides and then sit down and record it with charisma and then load it into a webinar platform? Most likely not. There's a very good chance they're not a good fit for that. Most people who do webinars have done at least one already, meaning they took the chance to do all the scripting. They did the slides themselves. It could be the worst webinar in history. It doesn't matter. The fact that they did it one time on their own free will is usually a good enough reason for you to try again, because they already know the work involved. Yeah. Whereas someone who's never done a webinar and you tell them, here are all the steps we got to take in order for just the webinar to be done, not even the funnel, just the webinar. If they look at all those steps and they freak out a little bit, it's not a good fit for them. It's worth them doing something else first, meaning let's at least get a case study funnel built out, 3 pages in depth. Maybe it's just a straight to case study. It's a 5 to 15 minute video. It's almost like a VSL, a video sales letter. And then there's a button below to click through and schedule a call or fill out an application and then schedule a call. Let's do something a little more simplistic just to get your feet wet and maybe even build up some phone calls so that you can, create some business. And while that's coming in, then we can focus on a webinar if it fits your business model. And then from there, we'll figure out where the next steps go. Now, let's say someone comes to us with an existing funnel. They're already running some traffic through it. They are, they're getting some results, but not necessarily in the fashion they want them to be in. They want more success from it. Then we'll look at, okay, how many registrations have they actually sent through the funnel? How many of those people have watched the presentation? Our metrics for auto webinars are things like, did we at least get 300 to 400 registrations before we make any drastic changes, right? Did at least 50% of those people watch the presentation, at least start it, not watch all the way through, but at least start it. So out of 400 people, did 200 people at least start the presentation? On auto webinars, it's very possible to get 50%. On live, it's more like on the low end, 10% to on the high end, 30%, right? Most of the time. So you're looking at a completely different metric there. But if you're doing auto webinar, which is what most people want, then did you get at least 200 people to activate the webinar? And then from there, that's where you can decide whether or not your webinar is driving people to the end. Is it actually enticing enough for them to get to the pitch? Are they dropping off too soon, right? Because if you're using something like EverWebinar or Wistia, you could see, this 60-minute webinar, most people made it to minute 40. That's when the pitch is taking place. And a lot of people dropped off at minute 42, which means I need to work on my pitch. Or they made it to minute 20 and they dropped off, which means they didn't even get to my pitch. I need to work on the beginning portion of my webinar because it's not enticing enough for them to get to the point of the pitch, right? So we at least need to drive a couple hundred people to the webinar itself and have them register. But then we need a couple hundred people to actually sit down and watch the damn thing. And once that happens, it's like, okay, if 100 people or 200 people have watched this and no one's making it to the pitch, I got to work on my webinar. And that's not even the page. We're not talking about the variations of the landing pages. We're not talking about the cart. We're not talking about anything. We're talking about just the webinar now. And if they haven't even got to the point of the pitch, that's the biggest hurdle to overcome first.
Right. That's really very clear. Yeah. And in order to do this, if somebody has the money because they've done well, maybe offline, or maybe they have an e-store running, Shopify, and, but they really want to move into this more expert space. So funds is not really the issue. What is speed to market, speed in general is going to adjust here, but what do you recommend as a starting budget out the gate, and how do you position the mindset on this to, hey, it's brand new, you haven't done webinars, I know you're ready to go, you have a lot of content developed, you have the money, resources. Here's the framework and the timeline and the expectations on what we should see as results. Yeah,
if you are already doing somewhat well in your business, meaning even if you're doing 6 figures, I know local businesses that do 7 figures, but they barely even spend $100 a day. It's just, it's a fear of losing out. It's a fear of this isn't going to work. Right. Yeah. But let's say you're a 6-figure entrepreneur, maybe you're an insurance agent, realtor, someone doing things on your own, but you're not quite like the business owner. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you want to go the expert route because what you do in your business could be very successful for others. So you create this webinar funnel. I tell people, if you can't spend at least $100 a day, which is $3,000 a month, don't do it. Now, I know people who've done it for less, but here's my logic behind $100 a day. Okay. $100 a day allows you to test 5 audiences at $20 a piece. Okay. 5 audiences a day at $20 a piece. I don't like to start anything at $5 or $10. I like to start at $20. Now, if you're someone who wants to start with $10 per audience, that's 10 audiences a day at $10 a piece. That is a lot of data for you to accumulate for $100. That's going to allow you to determine whether or not people are actually engaging with your ads. And you need that data. Because if you're doing anything for $5 at a time, unless you're doing dozens upon dozens or hundreds of ad sets at a time. You're not going to get the data you need to know whether or not your subject matter is something people want to consume or sign up for, right? So I tell them, if you can start with $100 a day, your first month, always assume you're going to lose it. Just assume.
Yeah.
Even though if you make it back, just assume you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
And that $3,000 is going to give you all the data you need. It's going to tell you what audiences are working, which creatives are working, which headlines working. It's going to let you know what angle seems to be attracting the most people, so you can adjust your ads to that angle. Maybe we'll even drive 300, 400, 500 visitors, registrations through your funnel. Visitors could be in the thousands, should be. And by then, you'll even have some retargeting audiences. You've had maybe 200 people go through your presentation. Like, you have plenty of data with $3,000 to know whether or not your webinar is going to convert. And for the people who know what they're doing, you might get a sale or two from that webinar. And let's say you're selling something that's $1,000, right? Just for the sake of easy numbers here. Yeah. You sell 2 or 3 sales. You are either close to break even or you've broken even, which is awesome, doing everything yourself. And for others, I've seen people with $2,000, $3,000 turn it into 10, right? It really just depends on what it is you're selling. Yeah. But my point is that you're starting at $100 a day. You're going to get everything you need data-wise. You'll be able to make decisions from there based off the data. And then when you could see the pattern of increase, hopefully that's what you see is people are buying this product or they're signing up for a call. And when you get people on the phone, they're closing. Then you could pass it off to an agency, because most agencies, a lot of the good ones that I know, are not going to run a $3,000 budget. Most of them are going to run 5 or 10 as the entry level.
Yeah.
Most. And don't get me wrong, I have played around with $5,000 budgets and I've made it work to where now that person spends $40,000 a month, right? I've done that plenty of times. But those are the same people that are committing to me for 3 to 5 months, meaning they've already committed 15 to 25 grand up front to run this stuff. So imagine if I'm telling you to spend $100 a day, and that's $3,000. You also have to remember, you got to do this every month. Are you comfortable with doing this again? And then doing it again, and then doing it again. So if you're not in that frame of mind to do that, you shouldn't be running ads anyway, because you're not ready to possibly lose money, because not everyone gets it right on the first try.
Yeah.
And that's what we actually prepare a lot of people for. It's like, all right, have you ever spent money on ads? No, I have not. But you have the money to spend on ads. Yes, I do. I have $20,000. Great. Prepare for the first month to be a loss.
Yeah.
Automatically. Even if we make you money, just prepare for it to be gone, because most businesses in the month 1 are just trying to figure things out. Yeah. And then from there, you can figure out the rest.
That's awesome. Yeah. And this speaks right to what you said at the top, authenticity, expectations, integrity around this, and, setting the tone right out the gate, because there's so many, stories that you see in the forums and blogs and everywhere of folks just like, dude, that person sucked, or that agency sucked, or well, really, if you dig in, was that really entirely true? Maybe you sucked, right? And this is not a negative thing or a slant on somebody else, but it's a, 2 to tango, right? And making sure you as an authority in this space sets that tone, and what to expect is going to be important. So clearly one of your huge success metrics and points to be made there.
Yeah. And it's really just a matter of what's your emotional response to losing money as well, right? Yeah. Because when I've lost money, the old me would freak out. Oh my God, I lost $1,000. I lost $10,000. What now? The entrepreneurial side of me loses $10,000 and goes, it's okay. I already know what I'm going to do to get it all back.
Yeah.
It's a lesson.
That's awesome.
It's a lesson. Yeah. It's not a loss. It's a lesson. And so if you're unable to look at your losses as a lesson, paid traffic is not where you should be right now, because most people lose money on paid traffic.
Yeah.
And it takes time to educate yourself. It takes time for your agency or your freelance advertiser or your in-house media buyer to learn what people want from you. That's why you're putting out these messages. That's why you're creating these funnels. There's a lot of things that need to be done in order for them to understand, oh, this is what they're looking for. This image, this video, this headline is what's grabbing their attention. And if you can't allow that to happen, meaning you can't allow ads to be at a loss for 30 to 60 days, you shouldn't run ads because they don't work all the time on the first try. Even though there's plenty of people you see in groups and forums and all this stuff where that happens, you don't know their previous experience. You don't know who built their webinar. You don't know who built their funnel. You don't know if they built all of it themselves. You have no clue.
Yeah.
For all you know, they did it all themselves. But for what they know, it could have been built by the best webinar person on the planet. The funnel could have been the best performing webinar from a friend of theirs. And they just ran traffic and it just works. But you didn't know that. You just look at this guy and you're like, came out of nowhere and has a successful funnel.
Yeah.
You don't know the whole story. So that's why I say, if you don't have $100 a day to spend times 3, right? Just in your brain, am I going to do this 3 months in a row? You probably shouldn't run the webinar at all. Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But many options, many funnels exist and many models. And, testing is, of course, part of this as well. But yeah, you mentioned the mindset. That's a huge deal. And I guess what we can confirm is webinars are not dead. You hear this a lot, right? You see it online. And huge successful funnel, this webinar funnel. And is that one of the funnels you work mostly with? I mean, we're talking sort of lead gen and e-commerce. Are you more lead gen at the agency or more e-commerce?
It's very seasonal, and it's strange. So like in let's say like Q4 of the year, if you asked me this question, I would say e-com.
E-com, yeah.
If it's Q3, meaning, it's more of like the back to school time / fall, a lot of webinars, a lot of webinars. Right now, from like the Q1 to Q2 transition, Q1 is everything, because in Q1, it's the new year and people are looking for all sorts of solutions, right? Yeah. So they just want to find a solution, no matter if it's a webinar or jumping on the phone. So in the first 2 months of the year, I was just doing a little bit of everything, right? The types of opportunities we had were all over the place. Now, entering Q2, we're finding that a lot of people are looking at one of two things. It's either a webinar, or let's say it's more like a webinar to a sale, or a webinar to an application, or it's direct application. Like, those are the core things. There's nothing else being sent to us right now. And we have e-com clients. Don't get me wrong. We have e-com clients that spend a lot of money, but we're not getting as many people in e-com now as we will in September, October, right? Yeah. That's when that's prime time of the year. That can make someone's entire year. Is from October through December. There are e-com businesses that will make $2, $3, $4 million in that span, and then for the rest of the year, they've only made $500,000. Yeah. Right. And so I don't expect to get that many clients like that right now. What we're seeing is a lot of education, a lot of people who want to get others on the phone, right? Maybe it's like coaching, or it's done for you services. And that's what we're seeing a lot of right now, because in the summer, a lot of service businesses actually slow down, right? Because in the summer, a lot of businesses are in like this, I don't know, they're just sort of like they're leveling out, right? People are on vacation. People are taking some downtime. Like even realtors, like the hottest time of the year is actually the summer, because so many people are taking off time that they're looking at houses to buy, right? They're looking at things to go do. Dealerships, like auto dealerships, are selling tons of cars because people want to go on vacations. But the marketing provider is not going to get a bunch of people in, the e-com space or the dental space or anything like that during that time of the year, because that's not a hot time for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of education. That's the core focus. We're getting a lot of, people just trying to get more done for you clientele or higher end, high ticket type people into their funnel. But it's not necessarily all webinar, right? Webinars are a part of it. They end up becoming a part of the overall situation. But most people are coming to us saying, all right, I have an application funnel and I have a webinar funnel. I just need to find the one that works best for my current situation. Yeah. And we're trying both.
That's cool, man. Yeah, we're really appreciative of all this info. We're coming up on the close here, but just sort of tying into this, summing it up there, what is at Convert ROI? We're going to get to your info in a second, but what's the quote unquote perfect client that you typically would onboard and work with?
Yeah, we do very well with digital entrepreneurs. So people who sell online education, whether it's through webinars or getting people on the phone through an application. That's been where, like, my first client was basically in that space when Facebook opened up their platform to more, I'll just call them like more higher end type of clientele, right? Not just the local businesses, but the type of people who would be spending tens of thousands of dollars a month, right?
Yeah.
And we do very well with them. I mean, we do great with e-com clients too, but we're very selective with e-com because of the products, whether or not they're private label, are they their own creation, is the branding strong, things of that nature. So, if you're someone who sells already through webinar or gets people on the phone, that's a great step one. But then step two would be, what industry you in, because there's quite a few industries we constantly do well. And then there's others where it's hit and miss. And that's the type of thing that we analyze with them on the phone or through email when we're communicating as to whether or not it's something we feel we could be successful with. And if it's something we've had success with in the past, obviously we'll take you on. If it's something that maybe we didn't have a lot of success or we haven't done before, we make that very well known to you. And then you could decide as to whether or not you want to move forward. We're not going to force anyone to work with us, meaning even though it's the prospect or the lead that makes the decision, we're not going to take on someone that we haven't had success with before.
Yeah.
So if we've had 4 clients in a space where we failed all 4 times, most likely we're going to tell them, hey, this isn't for us, but we actually know someone who does very well, and we'll refer that business out to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great tone here. The authenticity keeps coming back, right? The high integrity, and I saw that from the first time I met you and referred in. And I think we need more leaders like you, David, in this regard.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, man, this is awesome. In fact, I have been showing for the folks looking visually here various websites. But what's the best way to reach you online, David?
So there's 2 places. Like, you can email me directly, right? You can just email me directly at david@convertroi.com, right? It goes straight to my inbox. I see it. I respond. And quite honestly, if you're interested in ad management or consulting, like, that's the best way to get my attention. Because now my inbox on Facebook gets flooded almost every day, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get help now, it's better to just email me direct. The other place that I'm on frequently is obviously Facebook, right? So, they could go to my profile, which is facebook.com/SCHLOSSY, or they can go to my fan page. And we actually, and by we, I mean my good friend Matt and I, like, we're constantly in our Facebook group just delivering free information, right? Just showcasing, what's going on at Facebook, what are we hearing from my rep, like what changes are being made. And that's where just a lot of people, before they ever contact me about ad management or consulting, like, that's where they're learning about me and how I convey education to people, right? So they'll go into that group, they'll learn about what's going on in the ad platform, how things are being done, what we're doing that's being successful. And then they'll hit me up and say, was in your group, loved everything that we saw. Can you do it for us instead?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm a part of your group. It's awesome in there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We all get busy and, we want to spend more time, but that's my fault. I need to spend more time in there as well. But, you serve your clients, and that's priority number 1. So, but I appreciate all that you do. And I've put up the website here, convertroi.com as well. You got the Facebook info and obviously the ability to email directly. Any final thoughts, David, on this space that we're in, either sort of the direction for the next 6-12 months for yourself or the space, or just any final tips or thoughts on this? It's been a great conversation. Yeah,
the webinar space is interesting. I would say that the shorter the webinar, the quicker you can convey what it is you're trying to deliver, the better. I'm often finding that shorter webinars are converting better these days. Webinars used to be 90 minutes to 2 hours, were fantastic. They still are, but they're not quite the same as they used to be. Like, every webinar we used to craft with our clients were 90 minutes to 2 hours, and they would all do great. Now you're pretty much doing webinars that are anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes long. And if you can't convey what it is you want them to do, not just what you're going to do for them, but what you want them to do for you in that time frame, and actually get them convinced to want to work with you, it's going to be much more difficult to get your webinar or even getting people on the phone to actually convert. And so you have to be clear, concise, punctual, like just deliver it, get to the point, and then the people who want to work with you will contact you. So just keep that in mind when you're putting together these presentations, or if you're just doing ads in general. Even ads are getting shorter, right? Videos that are 60 seconds or less tend to do really, really well with our clients versus long form ads. So try to just be as clear as you can from the get-go, and you typically get the people you're looking for.
That's great. And I can attest to this. I just did a test on a webinar recently. It was 26 minutes, and it was 15-second videos, and just a headline that said, hey, you need help with this? I mean, the shortest you could think of. Mm-hmm. And I've dealt with this a lot over the years, and, we geeks, right, get into this, and, analysis paralysis and stuff. And I've spent so much time trying to figure this out myself because, testing is part of the game, right? But when it comes right down to it, you got to obviously test, but the short, sweet, kind of to the point that worked in this case. But as a general rule, I think you're right. This 90-minute stuff is just each business is different. I mean, if you're in the B2B marketplace and there's some non-automated webinar that goes on and everybody's been invited to this massive event, 90 minutes might be appropriate. But it's interesting to see the trends and what you're kind of capturing as well. That's some great insight there at the end here.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, this has been just extraordinary. Just enjoyed this a lot. And I hope that you listeners and viewers as well have captured the essence here. We're going to be capturing this, of course, in my notes and show notes. And we have the information as well here. David, I just want to thank you as well for taking time today. What's your day looking like today?
A lot of phone calls and lots of campaigns, nothing different.
Yeah, exactly. That is awesome, my friend. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it.
All right, brother. See ya. All right.